Hi fellow Webflowers, welcome to the 7th part of this multi-step tutorial where I'm going to show you how to build this website. So in the last video we have built together this section that I call the Villion, and in this video we will build together this sticky section where these cards will swipe out to the left after they got sticky. So let's get into it. And if this is the first video you are watching, up here you will find the link to the playlist so you can start with the first video. But now let's start. So in Webflow I've already added a new section. I'm going to call this section Creatives. And within there we need another div. This is the div that I'm going to use for our section padding. And you can see I have here a bunch of classes that will apply automatically the padding. The numbers 104, that means 104 pixels, 128 means 128 pixels, T stands for top, B for bottom, and pad is obviously the padding. If you wonder where this comes from our starter and utility style guide. It's called Webflow. You can find a link in the description to it if you want to have a further look, and we will also link a video here for the Webflow intro if you want to deep dive into Webflow and how to use it in your project to speed up your Webflow development process. But for now I'm going to choose this section, and you can see this already gave the padding of ATM to my section. So next thing is that we are going to add a container. I'm going to add a container with 12 columns. And yeah, it's my habit. The next thing I do, I always add a wrapper. So I just give it the same name like the section and add a wrap to it. Oftentimes you can need a wrap like this or a wrapper like this, because if you want to do some flex settings to the entire section, stuff like that. So that's actually a good habit to work with a wrap, and also sometimes with a inner div. If we look at our design, first thing we are going to add is this headline, and we need to split up this headline into 2 rows because it's divided with these illustrations, and those are Lottie animations. So let's add another div, and I guess we will need this one also in later sections. So I give it a global name. This will be more abstract and not as precise. So I'm just going to call it something like illus for illustrations and title wrap. So here we go. Next thing is that I'm going to add another div. This is going to be the heading row. So we need the illustration and the heading to be in one div. So they need a parent, and that's what I'm adding now. That's the, I already have it here, and I call it heading row. This I already can give flexbox, horizontal. Yeah, I can leave this align settings, and now I can add a heading in here. We are using on H2 for that. So it is an H2, but the H2 style won't match here. If you have a look at the design, it's way larger, the font here. And that's why I'm copying that class, and I give it its own class. And let's try something like 7 or maybe even 8, and height of 1. I'm using EM for this one because it's already pretty large typography. Probably everybody can read it, and that's why I'm choosing to use EM over RAM. The user won't be able to increase the text size. That's the downside with that regarding accessibility, but it's already pretty large. But you can see it shrinks and grows really according to the viewport width. So I need the heading to be blue, and that's I'm selecting the Illus title wrap, and I set the color settings here to be blue. Creatives of all kind. Okay, so let's use creatives, and let's also add a Lottie file here. Let's call it something like title Lottie, and we need this Steve Jobs here. I've already uploaded them all. So here we go. Here's our Steve Jobs. And I need some gap here. You can see I have a little gap here. Probably it's enough to use something like 2em. And when I'm using Flexbox, I actually always use this gap settings, because it's a little bit more elegant than applying some margin here to this Illo title. Because yeah, if you have a look at this one here, I would need the margin on the other side, and I would need to create some combo classes or whatever, so I can solve the same situation with just using a gap on this flex. So here we go. And if I copy this row now 2 times, or only copy it once, but of all kind, and we need the Lottie on the different side, you can see it already is using the gap that I want. So next thing is that I want to center it. And if we have another look at the design, you can see that it's centered, but there's probably also some kind of margin here. So again, I go to the parent and I give it a flexbox vertical and I center everything. So now you can see it's already centered, and actually it looks like it's supposed to look like. I'm maybe decreasing the gap here a little bit. Something like that is enough. And I'm replacing this Lottie with this nice little alien. Here we go. So here we have the alien. And if you preview the animation, you can see that, yeah, you can see the alien is blinking, and I want this animation just to loop. So I don't have to set up an animation here in the animation tab or in the interactions tab. I just want to loop that one. And here our Steve Jobs. He's also lifting his eyebrows. Here you can see I can loop that as well. So that's it for this section. And yeah, next thing is that we are going to build the cards. So to build the cards, let's have a look into Figma to understand the concept of this sticky situation. You can see I just made a little frames here, or a couple of frames here. The red one, this will be the outer parent. I will give it the class of creative cards, and this will be the sticky track. It will actually just have a defined height, something probably in viewport height, 150, 200, something like this. And the first child is then this green frame here. And this is the creative card wrap, and this is the sticky element. So this will have position sticky. And this will be the thing that will be sticky while the user is scrolling. Yeah. And there's another child of this creative card wrap. Within there are now the creative cards, and they will be animated during scroll. They will be animated to move out of the viewport to the left and to the right, while the parent is sticky. So let's go to Webflow and build that. I'm copying that class here. So then I'm copying that class name, add it here, and copying the last one, add another div, and give it that class name. So that's the structure for this section. You can see that we still need some spacing here, but we'll take care about this later. So first thing, I'm going to build this from inside to the outside. I start with the first card right now. Let's have a look at the design. So you can see it's pretty simple. We just have the background color, and we probably are using some grid for the stuff that's here inside of it. So let's get back to Webflow. So first thing, not using the background color, but because all cards will have different background colors, I will apply the background color later to one of the combo classes, but we will need a border radius. All cards will have a border radius of 32 pixels. So that's the first thing I'm doing. Creative cards. Go to the border radius, 32 divided by 16 EM. So it's just 2 EM. And we will have a padding of like 60 and 104. So we have a padding 64, or let's use 56 divided by 16 EM. So 3.5 EM, 3.5 EM, and here we had 104. So here we go. I can just give it a color for now so that I can see what I'm doing. I'm giving this color. So next thing is that we are going to use this little label here. So, but at first I'm adding another div. This will be my inner, and here I will apply the flexbox or the grid settings. So we call it creative card inner. And we will have another div here. This will be creative's label. This will also have an individual color later in each card. If we have another look at the design, you can see here it's like a little bit darker. Actually, it's always a little bit darker, but the text color will be different. So, and within there we have some text. I'm pretty sure that this will be an not a global class, but an individual class. So let's have a look. Okay, it's almost 20 pixels. And this time I'm using REM, not EM, because this text is quite small, and the user should be possible to scale in and scale out with his browser settings. And what font do we have? We have the Clash Display font here. Clash Display. and probably medium. So, and the label itself, it will, let's give it a default color so we can just see what we are building. Okay, my design is not pixel perfect, as you can see here, but you can work with that anyway. If you always round it up, you can round this up to 8 pixels top and bottom padding and 20 pixels left and right padding. So this is 0.5 rem and 20, that's 1.25 rem. If you do the math. And we also want to center the text, so we give it horizontal, we align it center and justify it center. And yeah, next step is that we are going to add the 2 columns. So, but that this label looks the way it should like, let's go to the creative card inner, and it needs to be flexboxed as well. We can just align it top start and justify also start, and we still need a border radius for this one. You can actually use anything that's big enough. So yeah, something like 99 pixels, for example, that's enough. And so next thing that we are going to add here is our, actually the grid, yeah. Let's call it creative card grid. And we are choosing display grid there. It's okay for now. You can see that I have to change the creative card inner once more. It needs to have direction vertical. And let's see, let's wait until we apply some spacing here. Maybe we won't need a spacing because if you see here that the illustration actually is even above this one here, at least in the design. So, but for this creative card grid, let's start with giving it 100% of width, and we just need, or we need 2 columns, but only 1 row, so we can delete it. And we need some spacing here between the 2 columns. Let's use something like 3 em to begin with, or even more, 6 em to begin with. And let's add another div here. I call it content wrap because this will be the parent for the text. And usually this is a global class I'm using just to understand the structure of what I was building here quicker. But sometimes you need to apply different styles to that. So I'm giving stuff like this always a combo class. And yeah. And the combo class I always give it is like is creatives, and creatives is the name of the section. That's my strategy after the class naming here. I can give this also flexbox. It can be vertically, it can be align start, and let's have a look at the design. We have a spacing of almost 30 pixels here. So let's use 2 em here just for the spacing. Now we can add the headline. We choose an H3 for that and give it the class is H3. And let's copy the text from the design. Here we go for creative freelancers and digital in digital and print. And yeah, I want the text to be blue. So that's something I'm used to apply to the parent instead of using a combo class to this h3. Actually, it doesn't matter, but you should decide for one or the other and stick to it during your entire project. So I'm used to give this to a parent if I anyway already have a combo class on the parent. Here we go. It's supposed to be blue in the final design. And then we need a paragraph. Let's add it. Let's give it my global class for medium text size. Actually, is it? You can see I have the style is txt medium, and that's why I'm also using the class name here. Yeah, but in this case you can see it inherit the blue color, so let's make an exception to that. I'm not using the combo class here, or I'm not using the parent to apply the text color for the headline. I use the global class I have for blue text. It's txt light blue 100. So here we go. So that's actually my content for that section. And next one is that we are going to add the Lottie file. So let's type in Lottie and call it something like creative cards Lottie. And yeah, the first one is this freelancer girl. Should be uploaded already. Here it is. Okay. This one actually can loop because it's it's a looped animation. So we can just loop it right away. But you can see we need to make some fixes to the styling. So I'm going to select the creative card grid, and I'm going to align the items to center, and we need a max width here, or some width. Let's try something like 20 em, even a little bit smaller, maybe 18 em, and I need to bring it here to the right, and for here you can just select the Lottie file and give justify end. Here we go. So that's the structure for the card. Let's see how it's responding. Looks still okay on tablet. Maybe I can change a little bit the paddings here. To something like 5 on the left and on the right, and to something like 4 on the top maybe. And I'm also going to decrease the spacing here to 0. Looks fine to me. Okay, great. And I'm going to decrease the font size to 1 rem here. Yeah, you can see from here on I have to switch to vertical. So at first I'm going to select my card inner. I'm going to switch this to, okay, this is already on vertical, but align center to bring this one to the center. And then I'm going to select my grid, and in this grid I just delete the first column, so I have 1 column. Yeah, now we have rows. The second row is already added automatically. I just need to select my Lottie file and justify it to the center. And I think from a design perspective, it would make sense to have on mobile to have the Lottie file above the text. So for this, you can just select here first and it will be moved up. And maybe we need a little bit more spacing here. So let's already apply this to the desktop, to EM, because it will be inherit to mobile. Great. Size looks also fine for me. Last thing that I'm going to do is, you can see here I don't really need a spacing. I could increase that to match the design, but actually probably making this bigger will give me trouble later in real browsers on smaller laptop screens. So I will leave this size, but we need some spacing here on mobile. Let's select our card inner for that. And it's already a flex box, so I just can add some row gap here, something like that. So what row gap do we have here? 2em also. So 2em is just fine. And let's see how it looks on this mobile portrait. I have to definitely give this less spacing, something like 1.5 em should do it. And also top and bottom, something like that. Okay, fine. So that's it with the layout for the cards. Now we can duplicate the cards 2 times and apply the combo classes to give it its own look, so it matches the design. You can see that we have different color themes. So let's copy the card 2 times. Here we go. And the first one has the salmon background color. So let's give it is 1, or yeah, is 1. It will have this color. And the only thing we need to change is this creative label text. So let's give it also is 1, and it's supposed to be blue. And the second one, I can also copy the text already, paste it here, and you can see the background is blue and the text has the salmon color. So let's make this one blue. Find our text is txt salmon. Here we go. And this one, oh, actually I have a different font size here, but yeah, that's not correct. Should be like this. Here this text is going to be white, so is txt white, and this one is also salmon. And we have the programmer here, so let's replace the Lottie. Here he is. Creatives, developers and agencies. Oops. And the last one is yellow. This text is blue. This will stay blue, and yeah, for agency of all sizes. Okay. Okay, this is a little bit strange. My combo class is not working here. Something like this can happen with the order of your CSS. There's a fix if you have the FinSuite browser extension installed. You can go here to candies and then, where is it? Something like CSS styles reorder. It would be nice if they would add a search here, because here it is. In this case, you have to take it and bring it to the end somewhere. Then it should work. Currently, it's not working because the style for this creative label was created after the global class. So it's also in the CSS file under the global class. And so the browser reads the creative label text class last, and that's why it is overriding the global class. And that's why I need to push it to the bottom. So the browser reads that global class at last and applies it. So if I'm correct, it should work now. Yeah, here we go. Now it's salmon. So we have our cards, and now we are taking care about the sticky part. So to do this, I'm going to select my creative cards, and if we have a look again at Figma, at our concept here, the creative cards will be the sticky track, and we will give it a height defined with viewport height. And within there, we have the parent of all three cards, the creative cards wrap. This will be the actual sticky element, and all the other cards, they will be positioned absolute and stacked above each other with a Z index. So let's do that. So creative cards, let's start with something like 200 viewport height. And now you can see that it has a height. Doesn't look that much, but you can see I can increase it here, but 200 is good for now. And I'm also giving it a little spacing up here. I can go to the creative wrap. I can turn this flexbox vertical, and I can give the row something like 8 EM here. So we have a spacing there. And yeah, back to our creative cards. That's it actually for this one. Now let's go to the creative cards wrap. Again, this will be our sticky element. We will turn this one sticky, and it will, to apply sticky, you also need here on top value. I want it to be sticky pretty much in the center while the user is scrolling. So let's try something like 20 viewport height for that. So you can already see now it is sticky while I'm scrolling, but it has no height actually. And all these cards need to be position absolute. So I'm selecting here the base class and I'm giving them position absolute. Now they are stacked above each other. And here's the creative card element. And you can see, because it's position absolute, it has actually no height. So I need to apply a height for them here. Let's use something like 40 EM, something like this. Yeah, you can see it's sticky. let's get back to our 3 cards. I want them actually to stack about each other with the z-index. And I also want to rotate them a little bit so I can see each 3 a little bit at once. So let's go to the first one. The first one will have a z-index of 3 because it's the first one I want to see. And I'm giving it here and transform, rotate, and let's rotate it. Okay, that was way too much. Let's rotate it something like 4 degrees maybe. Let's go to the second one. Let's give this one a z-index of 2 and rotate it something like 2. Oh, 1 second. I just can see that there's no combo class applied to it, so I have to get rid of that one. Is 2 is the combo class, so I have to delete that too. So let's give it the combo class. Is 1, is 2, is 3. Okay, fine. And so now this one is 2, and we will rotate it by something like 2 degrees. Yeah, now you can see, I can see all 3 cards being stacked up above each other. And when I go into preview mode, you can see I can scroll here and they stay sticky. And yeah, while they are sticky, I want them to now to move out from left to right. So to do so, we need to add some animation to the creative cards wrapper. And let's create one. We need while scrolling in view, play scroll animation, and that's the just call it creative cards. So, and I'm going to select my first creative card, and what I want to do is I want to move it out of the viewport to this side, and I want to rotate it a little bit at the same time and turn down the opacity of it. So that means at first I'm going to add the move part. And yeah, should start something like at keyframe 30. And we are going to move it by 0%. And yeah, I don't know, maybe something like 50% will work. And here we will move it, let's try 100%. Okay, 100% is not enough. Let's use 115% just to be sure. So next thing is I want to rotate it a little bit. I'm going to rotate it from 0 to maybe 4. And then we need the opacity, or let's rotate it from something like, we need a beginning rotation to something like -4. We see how it will work. And the opacity. Opacity will start at 100%. And will turn down to 0%. And let's have a preview. Yeah, looks fine. And now we want the same to happen to the second card. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select them all. I'm duplicating them and I'm moving them to something like 32%. I'm right clicking on them, change target and select the second one. And duplicate this second block here. And yeah, we have 20% difference on the top. So let's give it the same here. Right click, change target and select the second card. So, but this time I want to move it to the other side. So let's use a minus. And the rotation is something different. The rotation is 4%. And I'm going to rotate it to -2. Let's see what happens. But the beginning rotation is not the correct one. So let's save it for a second and go back here. Let's have a look. My first one has 4 degrees and this one has 2 degrees. So 4, 2 and 0. Let's apply that to the animation. So the first one is 4 to -4. This one is 2 to -6, maybe. And let's apply this one more time to the last card. So I'm copying that again. I had a difference here of 3 pixels, 3%. Change target, select the last card, duplicate this one, move it down at 20%, so it's 96. Let's add it here. Change target, select the last one. And this actually has no rotation, so I can delete the rotation. Yeah, I can't see it right now because I'm at the end of my of the site. We need a dummy section. I need a dummy section and I can give this dummy section something like 200 viewport height. So yeah, now you can see it's working, but I need to fine tune it a little bit. And what you can also see, once the cards start to scroll out like here, I get this ugly overflow, and I have a fix for that in a couple of seconds. Okay, so I've added my dummy section and I had another look at the animation, and you can see this is not really working, that the last card is also moving out to the side. So I'm changing the animation here a little bit. So actually for the last card, I'm not using a move. And this can also actually start a little bit earlier, the opacity. And so you get a little bit more space. I'm also ending it at 100%, but I deleted the move, but I'm adding a rotate. So this card starts at 0, and while it's moving out, I wanted to rotate a little bit by something like 4 degrees. So if I have a look at this now, yeah, you can see That's the way I want it to look. And now let's have a look at what to do with the overflow problem. So the most solution people will think about now is, yeah, let's go to this creative sections and just give it overflow hidden, and now the problem is solved. But if I do that, you can see now, my content here is not sticky anymore. That's why, or the reason for this is that position sticky doesn't work if one of the parents has overflow hidden. So this doesn't work here. But there's a script. It's called sticky fill. Actually, it's unmaintained. It was supposed to be used to implement position sticky before the CSS position sticky was supported by all the major browsers, but you can still use it because it's fixing that overflow problem for us. And yeah, back to Webflow. I'm getting rid of this overflow here, and let's open our page settings. And I'm going to paste a little bit of script here. I'm just referencing the script here, and actually I need a closing tag here for my script. Here we go. And yeah, we are just calling up the script here, and it is looking for attribute called data sticky to make our element sticky. And that's what we are going to do now. I'm just going to my card rep and adding an attribute, data sticky. I don't need a value for that. And if you're going to push it now, and have a look at the live site, you can see that it's working. And I'm now scrolling from left to right. You probably can't see, but yeah, we have no overflow anymore. So that's the fix for that problem. So let's have a last look if everything also works. At first I'm selecting my creative wrap and see the height here, but I think the height is fine. Let's see how everything is responding. Looks also fine. This looks also fine. This is also okay. So let's have a look at the page that we published. Yeah, looks fine. Looks fine on tablet. And looks fine on mobile. Except of my headlines here, I just see I need to give them a fix. So on tablet they still look fine, but they're not centered. So let's go to its padding, heading row, and give it a line center. So that's fixed. Looks fine. Yeah, here I need to increase it. Don't know why it has a RAM here, but that's two. Let's use something like this maybe. And those need to be smaller. Actually, I didn't apply a width to them before. Something like 80 maybe, or 7, 6 is fine. Yeah, like this. And yeah, something like that. And I can actually make it smaller here as well. And decrease the gap here a little bit to something like, yeah, 1 EM is fine enough. And maybe decrease the padding we have here. something like 6 and 2, 4 here. So that wraps it up for today. We have built together this sticky section. The next thing that we are going to build is this testimonial section, but it will be in the next video. If you're not subscribed yet to my channel, subscribe to it not to miss one of the following videos. And in case it was the first video you were watching, here's the link to the playlist and also to the first video. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay in the flow.